from WBBZ-TV Sports. It's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to year 4 of Beat the Champ. 4 years. How about that, Sue Novoitsky? Can you imagine that?
No, when we stood here 4 years ago, I was so nervous, and you just gave me all this guidance and said, just talk to the camera, and I can't believe it's been 4 years.
Well, guess what? The good bowling has calmed you down, and it has certainly grabbed the attention of Western New York. We're right back where this whole show started, at the Rapids Bowling Center, with another great month of bowling action, and it just so happens to have two of our best bowlers through the first 4 years. That's Mike Zarcone, we'll see him today, and Chuck Jagosinski, we'll see him later in the month.
It just happens to stand to reason that those guys who have been at the top of the charts for all of these years is here for the start of our 4th year.
Yeah, great bowlers like those two guys have emerged as stars. New names are always coming our way. To find out if they're going to be the next stars, we've got a couple of them for you today. Janelle, new names are great. The old names are great. 4 years, congratulations.
I know, 4 years. I can't believe it. And like Sue said, standing here 4 years ago, who knew we'd be back here 4 years later?
All right, well, we thank you for all the support. We couldn't be doing it without the great bowling fans of Western New York, so we're ready to bring you another great year of Beat the Champ. We're here at the Rapids Bowling Center in Niagara Falls, so let's get rolling. Our first match of the new year features our returning champion, Pat Brick, who advances on from Brad Angelo Lanes 2 weeks ago against a newcomer to our show. Nothing like starting off a new year with a new face, and his belongs to Ricky Zinone from Rochester, New York, our top qualifier, and he'll be taking on Pat in match number 1.
Two left-handers we have to start off the show, so it's pretty equal. We'll be able to see how differently they play the game. And Ricky is a well-traveled tournament bowler, and so there's a healthy respect between these bowlers. They see each other a lot in tournaments.
So even though Ricky's a newcomer to us on this show, a lot of these guys, including Pat and Mike Sarcone, we'll see later in the week, certainly they know all about Ricky and know what he can do, and that's a good way to get things started for the 32-year-old from Rochester. And now we get our first look at Pat Brick making his 10th appearance here on Beat the Champ with an outstanding overall record of 10 wins and just 5 losses. He is in the top 10 through the first 3 years heading into year 4 in overall wins with 10, and of course won a couple in a row to advance from Brad Angelo Lane, so looking to keep his winning streak alive.
Absolutely, and you know, he is definitely one of the outstanding left-handers in this area. Another tournament bowler, and we talk a lot about that experience that they get by going out and you know, facing different conditions, the pressure you're under when you have to make a shot to win. And that's one of those things that I will have often said is it's amazing how these guys can bear down and make good shots when they have to. It's like they're able to like clear the mechanism and not be distracted by anything going around and make those great shots.
Yep.
And these two are used to it because they see it a lot in tournaments.
All right, so this should be a really good match. Pat Brick always, you know, he's from Tonawanda. He's a Western New York guy, but I always feel like we always get him here at the Rapids Bowling Center, and we're here a lot, and that means we get to see Pat a lot. He always seems to bowl really well here, and we've talked a lot about the fact that there are places where bowlers feel more comfortable.
Match up, yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking to myself that I thought this was a place where left-handers had outstanding scores, but actually this is an outstanding scoring facility. This is place is just known for their scoring.
Well, speaking of scoring, what are we looking at as far as oil patterns and challenges for the bowlers here today?
Right. Today we're going on a regular house shot. So this is the kind of condition where we're going to probably see the highest scores we're going to see. Since we're here 2 months in a row, next month they've chosen to go with a sports shot. So you'll see definitely lower scoring conditions next month because of the sport pattern. But again, the carry here is just extraordinary because of the kickboards and the way the pins fly around back there. This is just a high-scoring place.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of the pins flying is that second strike from Ricky Zinone. And yeah, we've had really good scores here. We've had really good bowling here, and again, this place has a bit of a special place for us because this is where it all started. And there you get a look at the numbers on Ricky Zinone, works at a casino in the Rochester area, and 227 overall average. This is his first, I believe it's his first chance to I don't know if it was his first chance to qualify for the show, but clearly it's his debut on the show right now. So good to finally get a chance to see one of the bright young bowlers from not all that far away.
Absolutely, and I think that the shows being put on YouTube really helped spread the word out beyond, the Western New York community. That you can get on television, because YouTube now is as big as TV. I mean,
sure.
With the young people today, it's amazing how many people just don't do cable TV or even satellite dish TV anymore. So YouTube really reaches a lot of people.
That means we're global now here, you and I, aren't we?
Absolutely, yeah. We are, aren't we?
All right, and globally, everyone is seeing that 7-pin stick a little bit for Pat Brick. That's 2 frames in a row where he can't get that 7-pin to go down. 51 years old, from Tonawanda pharmacy rep is the occupation for Pat Brick. 42 plus years of bowling in his life, and one of the outstanding bowlers in Western New York, a Greater Buffalo USBC Hall of Fame bowler is Pat Brick. And anytime you're rattling off the great names in Western New York bowling, it doesn't take very far for you to get down the list to get to Pat's name. There's Janelle Saban manning the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard.
Right, and Pat was just informed me that he was just contacted, and they're going to put him in this New York State Hall of Fame, which of course is the next step up from the Western New York Hall of Fame. And you got to have a lot on your resume in order to be invited into the State Hall of Fame, and congratulations to him for that. That just proves what a outstanding bowler he's been.
All right, well, he got the 7-pin to go down, but this time the 6 isn't cooperating.
Here's one of the things that I've been advised over the years, and that is, we know that with technology today, with the bowling balls, we know that, they give you a little bit of flexibility out there. But as a right-hander, I've always been told if you have a 4-pin, 10-pin situation, if you start leaving corner pins and you make the adjustment and then you leave 4 pins instead, that you need to change your bowling ball.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
He's falling behind as Ricky has started with 4 consecutive strikes, and you can see that he's already opened up a pretty good sized lead here on Pat Brick. And boy, what a way to get things started in the debut here on the show for Ricky Zinone. See if he can't finish the front half perfect, and he does.
Looks effortless too, doesn't it, while he's doing it? That one, he just got a little bit more, out a little bit more, picked up a little bit more of the dry boards to just get that extra pop, and, as if he needs it. I had a couple last night in the bowling center ask me about rotation. And the gentleman said, tell my wife about rotation. She says she's hitting the pocket, but she's not knocking all the pins down, because he said, I'm trying to tell her it's about rotation. So to talk about that, we're going to start doing a tip of the week next month. And I will start looking into answering some of these questions that, I've been asked out and about. And if any of the viewers have any question regarding equipment, next month I'm going to talk about equipment all month.
Great.
So, send them into Facebook, and we will get about answering those questions next month.
Of course, the Beat the Champ Facebook page is your source for all kinds of information, particularly upcoming qualifiers. You can go find that information there now as well, too. Remember, we're back here at the Niagara Falls at the Rapids Bowling Center next month as well. So there'll be a whole new group of qualifiers that will start up here very soon. And of course, now you can go to the Facebook page and throw in your suggestions for Sue's bowling and equipment tips. I can't wait. Pat might be your first student to sign up here if you can't get those 7-pin.
He got a new ball. Yeah, he ran out and got a different bowling ball. And now he's got to fish around a little bit because he didn't practice with this ball to see what it would do. But that was he was definitely going to leave the week 7s or the the 6 pins.
Pat Brick had wins over Tim Finken and Rob Stefani last month at Brad Angelo Lanes. That is what was allowed him to advance here to the Rapids Bowling Center. Looking to keep that win streak alive, but facing a big challenge in this gentleman, Ricky Zinone from Rochester. 28 career 300 games, a high of 837, 9 career 800 sets for him. And as Sue mentioned, he bowls in tournaments on the weekends and also bowls regularly a couple of nights a week in the Rochester area in the leagues there as well too. And it's great. It's great for us to see new faces and new names, and even better, the fact that Ricky has found out enough about the show to say, hey, you know what, I'm making the drive in and I'm going to come and try to make the show.
Right, and we're in Niagara Falls, so this was a bit of a drive for him.
Yeah, you know, just also as much as our television winner this week, who won our Dirt Sheet TV for the top qualifier, comes from St. Catharines. That was Paul Tatone. He did not make the show, but there's another example of how the reach of this show continues to go beyond just Western New York. And don't forget, the top qualifier in the round of 24 every month here on Beat the Champ wins that television valued at $500 from Dirt Sheet TV. We'll give another one away in the next coming weeks for the qualifying right here again at the Rapids Bowling Center.
Wow.
And 7 frames and 7 strikes for Ricky Zinone.
He does throw it great. It's good.
So smooth, isn't it?
Yep. Yep.
Not overly hard. We talk a lot about sometimes the guys who throw it particularly hard. I don't know that he's jumping out at me as a guy who's pounding it down the lanes, but boy, I'm telling you, just the motion is almost perfect.
He's got a really nice pop at the bottom, and you can tell that he's got a lot of rev rate because you can see how the ball is actually moving, how well it's rotating into the pins.
Boy, Pat just, you know, at times I feel like we've seen Pat on this show a lot. I mentioned this is his 10th time. There are times when he rips it up, and then I feel like there are times when he struggles a little bit like this as well, too.
Something about Pat Brick is, because of all the tournaments he bowls, he really is a fan of the sport shot. He'll be the first person to really say that his game and his mentality doesn't match up as well with the house shots. And, you know, so when it comes to like a higher scoring condition, you would think, okay, everybody can score high on it. But really, he's fine-tuned his game to cater to more of those tournament shots. And he really does, you know, struggle a little bit more on the house shots, surprisingly enough.
There's a strike, first one since the first frame for Pat Brick. I also feel like Pat has been one of those guys, this may be the second or third or even more times when he's advanced from another bowling center, where you always get that phenomenon of you didn't have to qualify for here because you advanced from the other place, and maybe there's a little bit of a pattern of having to get used to a new bowling center. Right,
because you haven't had the advantage of competing on these lanes and seeing how they break down and getting the nuances down like the people that have bowled on it have.
And
wow.
The run of 7 consecutive strikes comes to an end for Ricky Zinone. Kind of missed the pocket there and leaves a little cluster of pins, but what a way to start things off for Ricky in his debut here on the show.
Yeah, that just this sat in the oil and didn't do anything. Then he's been using a little bit more of the dry to the left of him and got that in a little bit, but wow.
So it's a spare in the 8th frame for Ricky Zinone, and still a lead of well over 50 pins that is going to propel Ricky on to a debut victory here as you get a look at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. Ricky Zinone is going to come up with a victory over Pat Brick here to get things off and rolling. Year number 4 here at the Rapids Bowling Center for Beat the Champ. Let's watch Ricky bowl here in the 9th frame before we take a break. Well, maybe his timing of winning it was just about right.
Yeah, and that's one of those things now that'll be in his head going into the next matches. Where he had everything going on, now he went light, now he went high, and so that'll be one of his obstacles to overcome for the next match.
Yeah, next match is going to be against Sammy Carson, and the match after that, it's our all-time winningest bowler here on Beat the Champ, Mike Zarcone. So we got a good couple of matches coming up for you here, and it's going to be a victory for Ricky Zinone. He'll advance on. We'll come back and talk to Pat Brick and get your ready for match number 2. And Sue and I return to the Rapids Bowling Center in Niagara Falls. More of Beat the Champ right after this. Well, Pat, you tried ball changes, you tried moving in, moving out, you tried adjustments. I figured the next thing you were going to try, you were just going to do a belly slide down the lane and try to knock some pins over, right?
That could be ugly, but yeah, Ricky bowled well. He deserved to win. He really, like I was saying, his ball really shaped the lane a lot better than mine. I was playing a little straighter. He was kind of around it a little bit more, and he threw better shots. That's what it comes down to.
You're such a good bowler. No one ever questions your abilities. It gets frustrating when you just run into a match like that where not a lot is working.
A little bit, but you know, I've been doing it for so long. It's happened before, and it's going to happen again. So
right.
You just move on.
Yeah. Well, guess what? It's happened before. It's going to happen again. And I refer to Pat being on our show. Pat, make you feel a little bit better. We'll see Pat probably sooner than we think we are. Always good to have Pat on the show. Match number 2, Ricky Zinone and Sammy Carson coming up next. Match number 2 will feature Ricky Zinone, who just comes up with the big 253-181 win over one of our favorites and one of our biggest Beat the Champ fans, and that is Sammy Carson, making his 4th appearance on the show. We'll talk a little more about Sammy in a moment, but what a neat debut for Ricky Zinone from Rochester to not only appear on the show for the first time, but to be the top qualifier, to be the number 1 seed, to have to get through the winner from the week ago, and then have it be a guy like Pat Brick. Boy, now you would think Ricky might be able to relax a little bit.
I haven't seen any signs of him not being relaxed.
No,
that's
true. You're right. You're right about that. So
this seems so matter of fact to him.
He does.
And it was interesting to see how he would adjust to, he's got a little bit of weird ball reaction there at the end of the last match, to see how he would come through that.
Yeah, and it was interesting to hear Pat Brick talk about how he felt like Ricky's game and the way he throws the ball sets up perfectly for here at Rapids and the way things are set up on these lanes. And Sammy Carson leaves himself a little bit of a challenge right off the bat there. Didn't have a lot of rotation or ball speed there.
Yeah. That looked like he didn't get much on it at all. Like it kind of just came off his hand.
4th appearance on the show for Sammy. He has yet to win 0-3. We saw Sammy last time over the summer at Tonawanda Lanes in July of 2018 when he last appeared on the show. And the interesting thing about Sammy is he bowls both left and right. So he has to essentially declare how he's bowling, and he has declared that he will bowl today right-handed.
Right. And another frame like that, and he might want to push it went the other way.
He said, I don't think he brought his lefty stuff with him, so I don't think and he can't change anyway, but yeah. That's a little bit better, but you can see the difference in the ball speed between he and Ricky Zinone. And again, it's not like we talked about Ricky is a ridiculous 20-mile-per-hour thrower, but when Sammy's throwing at 13, it's pretty noticeable.
Yeah, and we're seeing that it'll be, that shot came off his hand better than the first shot did, so got a little truer reaction, and it's always hard to make an adjustment off a bad shot, which is what he had on lane 30. So it was. Now that he's thrown one good, I think he'll get a better feel for where he needs to stand.
So open and spare in the first 2 frames for Sammy Carson, and now Ricky Zinone, who opened his last match with 7 straight strikes, is already 1 for 1 in knocking all those pins down. Just watch and just see how nice and smooth the stroke is.
Pretty decent rev rate. You see a lot of revolutions there as ball's going down the lane. And sometimes that bowling ball actually showcases it because it's got the way the print is laid out on it. And if that's a black ball, you can't necessarily see it as much.
Right.
And there's bowlers out there that have, in the old years when there was mostly black balls before it got to all these crazy color combinations. But, I remember Jack coloring in the writing on the ball so that you wouldn't see the labels.
Because your opponent could or whether it's your opponent or just in general, you can pick stuff up.
Right.
It's like the laces on a football.
Really? I didn't know anything about the laces on a football.
You can see that's one way to see rotation, or see how a ball moves, and certainly in this era of instant replay, I think one of the ways that you can determine whether a guy catches the ball or not is whether you see the laces move.
And you're right, then it is exactly the same thing. You can definitely see the rotation of the ball, good shot from bad shot by the labels. Wow.
Ricky has a very interesting twist of his wrist as he lets go of the ball. We'll talk about that when he comes back around, but to tell you a little more about Sammy Carson, 53 years old from Tonawanda, bakery associate for Tops Friendly Markets, a 212 average overall, and he's a guy who's been bowling for all of his life and bowls pretty much everywhere in town. Leagues at the Tonawanda Bowling Center pretty regularly, a couple nights a week. And I thought he was going to get the first strike there. Team scratch championships in the Tonawanda Bowling Association's annual tournament. He's just a guy who loves the sport, and that's what we love. And if Sammy's not on the show, he's almost always at the show.
That's good to see. I of course, as someone who loves this game, can completely understand what he's talking about or how he feels about it. It's just nice to, be good at something and to, be
passion. Good, right? Love to see passion. And Sammy is passionate. I wrote us a great little note before the match, just thanking everybody here for putting the show on and just talking about how he grew up watching the original Beat the Champ in the 70s and 80s, and mentioned guys like John Masiello, Jim Wolfe, Carl Kenyon, Wally Topinko. These are names that I haven't even heard of. There's a good strike for Sammy. Just how much this show inspired him to get involved in the sport, and how he's so appreciative that he's made the show 4 times. It means the world to him, and that's great. That's what we love. That's what we love about people who are passionate about the sport.
Right. And he mentioned something also in what he wrote that's we try to talk about at least once every month, and that is in every house we go to, there are bowlers who excel in that house. And maybe you don't feel confident going to other houses that you haven't seen before, but to come out here and support the center, support the show, bowl, and how much fun it is to make it on television and to be on TV and then be on YouTube and show your family. I mean, Sammy said if he can make the show, anybody can make the show, and he just wants to encourage people to come out and try out.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of a different classification for the guys that we've had on the show. Is we've got the guys that you're used to seeing, and we're going to see Mike Zarcone at our next match, and Mike and Chuck and Pat Brick are classic bowlers, and I don't know that they necessarily are as excited or thrilled to be on TV because they do it a lot and they're good at it. Where you get a guy like Sammy, like this is the biggest deal in the world for him. He's on TV. He can go on the internet and show his kids and his grandkids and his relatives and his buddies at work and go watch me bowl. I mean, that's awesome. That's great.
But you also have to. Something drives these bowlers to come here month after month and try out. And the reason why you see Chuck and Mike as much as you do, and yes, they are great bowlers and they are used to how this goes and the sound of our voices and all of that, but something drives them to keep coming and trying out every single month. So they must be enjoying the experience just as much as someone new would. So this looks like a good time to take a break. We'll be back with more Beat the Champ right after this. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
Some of them are guys that have been on a lot. Some of them guys have been on once. But to expose maybe even closer to 250, if we added all the numbers up, to expose those opportunities for those bowlers, just to get a chance to do this is what part of the fun of doing this show is all about.
And what drives me crazy is that we have not had that many women. We've just had, I think, 2 women make the show.
Almost that one who took a pretty solid nudge and would not fall for Ricky Zinone. Yeah, you're right. We've had a few, we've had 2 on the show, I believe, but we would love to have more, and we're going to have a big women's ladies tournament coming up next month here at the
which, I just want to mention real quick that the qualifiers are going to start this weekend. They're going to start tomorrow, Sunday the 6th, 12, 2, and 4. And there's actually quite a few qualifiers. There's 2 full weeks, Sundays, both Sundays, the 6th and the 13th, and the 20th. So 3 Sundays, 12, 2, and 4 qualifying. Then back again on the Mondays, the 7th and the 14th at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. for people who can come out at night. And Thursday, the 10th and the 17th at 8 p.m. And the qualifying, top qualifying will be 7 p.m. on the 20th. But in every one of those qualifiers, there's going to be a special qualifier for women because our 4th show is going to be a ladies' show. So not only will you have an opportunity to be that one person that makes the regular show, your scores are also going into the ladies' show. So the ladies are really being encouraged to show up next month. And the TV taping is the 26th, which is the day before our Queens tournament. So we have an opportunity to get sharp, we have an opportunity to make TV, and then we have an opportunity to come bowl our own Queens tournament the following day. So it's a good month for women.
Great, that's awesome. And again, we can't encourage the ladies to come out here even more. Don't forget, top qualifier in each round of 24 each month here on Beat the Champ wins television valued at $500 from Dirt Cheap TV, and we're more than happy to give one of those out to one of the ladies if the opportunity presents itself.
Right, and now's the time. This is the time for the girls to come show up. Like I said, it's right there with our women's tournament. Good time.
7th frame strike for Sammy Carson. That's 3 of the last 4. He's starting to find his groove here a little bit.
Right, and it's a 22-pin match. Ricky's ahead, but now Sammy closes that in a little bit with striking there in the 7th, so he can knock that down another 10 pins by striking here. And we would have a 10-pin match.
17 career 300 games for Sammy Carson. 4 of them left-handed, 13 of them right-handed, which is awesome. That's an unusual statistic that we don't often talk about. Oh, there's your dreaded 7-10 split that I'll have to deal with here in frame number 8.
Yeah, that'll stop in your tracks right there.
So just when Sammy was starting to put a little bit of pressure on Ricky Zinone and force him to respond, this thing pops up. And it'll be a second open in the match for Sammy Carson. And that one hurts.
That one hurts. That could have tightened this match right up.
So now a chance for Ricky to kind of take control back of this one as he looks to win 2 in a row, and then we will get if that happens, a Zinone versus a Zarcone final match. And tell you what, those 2 Z's will not put anybody to sleep, I guarantee you that. So a big strike in the 8th frame for Ricky Zinone as you see Janelle Sabin updating everybody on the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard.
Yeah, if Ricky strikes here, this match is all but over. It's just need pin count with a strike here. Wow.
Oh boy, see that one pin pop about 2 feet up in the air?
Wow, that just stood right back up again.
So a chance to finish it off doesn't happen for Ricky Zinone.
It's still a matter of making the spare, and it's still going to be just a couple pins and count he'll need that he won't have any real problem covering. But we can't call it mathematically just yet.
So a chance for Sammy to finish out here, at least put a little bit of heat on Ricky to have to make those couple shots that Sue referred to and head on into match number 3. But always good to see Sammy on the show here. And again, as we talked about, always good to have guys like Sammy who are just classic Western New York guys, bowlers who love the sport, love to bowl with their buddies, love to have it be a part of their lives. And we get plenty of those guys on this show, and that's what makes this show so much fun.
Yep. So needs to strike out here, throw all 3 to force Ricky to get 9 pins. So Ricky would just need 9 pins. He wouldn't have to make the spare, but you know he still wants to throw all 3 here.
Yep, and it won't happen
It won't
there
happen.
for Sammy, so that's going to make it even easier for Ricky coming up into the 10th frame. And again, you're seeing a bit of a contrast of styles and ball speed, and there's that. I felt like that frame was an example of Sammy doesn't throw it all that hard, doesn't get enough pin motion to knock that 7-pin down.
So Ricky will win this on the bench. He now has enough pins to cover, so he will win his second match.
All right, so the debut of Ricky Zinone from Rochester, New York is a good one. He's bowled 2 matches. He's won 2 matches, but now he'll really get a test because match number 3 is against our most successful Beat the Champ bowler. We'll get you ready for Ricky Zinone and Mike Zarcone when Sue and I return to the Rapids Bowling Center right after this. Well, Sammy, we know how much you love being on the show, but I also know how much you really want to win on this show soon enough, don't you?
That would be nice. 0-4 is not good.
No, but that's all right. We love the fact that this show means so much to you. Boy, you started to figure things out a little bit there, starting to put a little pressure on Ricky, and then that 7-10 split kind of killed you, didn't it?
I mean, I was in the pocket enough, but the pins didn't quite cooperate.
Right. Well, we know you're just about the biggest fan of this show, so give me the advanced scouting report here on Zarcone versus Zinone coming up.
Probably a couple of 250-plus games.
You think so?
That's
all right.
what I'm going with.
Well,
yeah.
there you go. All right. I don't know if there's 250 there for you, but at the very least, that'll make you happy. Hope we get you back here on the show soon. All right.
I'll keep trying.
Sammy says we got a really good match coming up. I think he's going to be right. Stick around. Mike Zarcone and Ricky Zinone next from the Rapids Bowling Center. Well, this should be a good one because anytime Mike Zarcone is bowling, you know you're going to get some of the best performances in Western New York. And the way Ricky Zinone is bowling in his Beat the Champ debut, he's a pretty worthy challenger. So this one should be fun. It's the battle of the Z's, Zarcone and Zinone. Let's see who comes out with their A game and winds up advancing to next week's show.
Yeah, we've got Mike Sarcone, who is really on an equal playing field as far as righties versus lefties. So the right hasn't been super challenged. I mean, Sammy did throw it right-handed, but he's pretty much straight up the second arrow. He's straight up 10. We know from watching Mike Zarcone almost every single month that he likes to curve it, and he's got that neat little shovel release of his, and he'll be much deeper. So this will be a good match.
Spare in the first frame for Ricky Zinone to get things started. And now we do get our first look at Mike Zarcone. This is his 28th appearance here on Beat the Champ. Think about that. We've been doing this show for going into our year 4 now, and no one has come close to the amount of appearances on the show that Mike. He has won 28 matches, lost 19. That 28 figure of wins is 7 more than the next closest competitor, and he has been sort of the superstar of the show. And it's like any good sports competition, you need some superstars, either to admire them or to root for them to lose. That's how it works in the world of sports.
Right, and I do hear this out in the community. I mean, people really do pick their favorites, and honestly, I hear really good things out there about Mike Zarcone. He's become a staple to this show. How can you not respect his game?
Well, let's go beyond whatever he's done on this show. He's one of the all-time great bowlers in Western New York. He's in every Hall of Fame. He's set numerous records and incredible accomplishments. He's just translated that into this show just because good is good. You know what's a staggering number? Is 9,800s. That is staggering. You see a lot of 300s, and there's bowlers out there that have an amazing amount of 300s, but 800s are much tougher. But I thought you were going to say that's the amount of times he's worn shorts in his career while bowling. No, that's probably that would be an under judgment. Just checking. Interesting leave here for Ricky. He does seem, when he does get the ball in, it does seem to
not roll up for him. We've seen a couple light hits for him that have left challenging, but not this as challenging as this.
Oh, nice pickup. Very nicely done.
Just another day at the office.
Just another split pickup there for Ricky Zinone. Boy, you know, he started off great. Strikes in the first 7 frames of the first match. I feel like he's fishing a little bit since then.
Yeah, his reaction isn't as great as like you said, originally it looked like it was going to be.
Third frame now for Ricky. Spares in the first 2, and I think he'll be the first to tell you he needs a lot more strikes in order to beat Mike Zarcone. First time we've seen Mike, it's unusual to have been a couple of months, but we saw him last at Island Lanes in October of 2018, the 50-year-old from Tonawanda. Mike bowled the 300 in the top 24 qualifying that got him to this position of number 3. And again, we rattled off all the outstanding achievements for Mike Zarcone here on our show. And there's the big hook, and there's the big results. And it's 3 frames and 3 strikes. So as we get started on 2019, it gives us a chance to look back at 2018, and among the statistics we keep here on Beat the Champ are the yearly numbers, and not a shock that in the year of 2018, Mike Zarcone tied for the most wins with 11 and tied with Chuck Jagosinski, who we'll see on the show in a couple of weeks. Chuck was on the show 9 times in 2018. Mike was on the show 7 times, and again, not a surprise that those 2 guys, because they're at the top of our overall list, not just 2018, to see them at the top of the list, you know, for this past year.
Yeah, that's an incredible amount of participation right there, and I do feel like, you know, we've seen a lot of Mike and Chuck, and now there's documentation to prove that yes, indeed, that was true. And yet, very different bowlers. Both right-handers, but very different styles, we should say. And
ring around the 6 pin there for Ricky Zinone, and
yeah, he needs to get something going.
Yeah,
here.
I'll say he's struggling to find his groove here a little bit. There's Janelle on the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scorer. Pete Maduri won 7 times. Jason Siliberto won 7 times. Both of those came in long win streaks for both of those guys. So again, what that says is that Mike and Chuck were much more consistent in being on the show on a more regular basis, and putting those 11 wins together from a lot of different months and a lot of different bowling centers.
You know, I'm looking at the sheet here, and there's a lot of names on here with just 2s and 3 wins, and you know, I think this kind of stands to reason. The first thing that pops into my head when I see this is that we have had a lot of variety on the show. I mean, yes, we have seen Mike and Chuck quite a bit, but around that, we've seen a lot of variety on the show of bowlers, new bowlers making the show, new faces, or, you know, faces that we haven't seen a whole lot of. So, you know, it's really not just the same people making the show all the time. There's a lot of variety here.
Yeah, and I think, you know, honestly, making the show means you have to make the effort to qualify, and nobody is more consistent at making the efforts to qualify than Chuck and Mike are, which is why they're on more shows and why they get more wins. So, you know, life gets in the way for a lot of these guys and a lot of tournaments, and you know, a guy like Pete Maduri is a drag racer, so in summertime he isn't really bowling, he's drag racing, and then he'll bowl in the winter. So, you know, I mean, it sounds funny to say, but particularly in a guy like Mike's case, he's as much a professional bowler for not being a pro as anybody in Western Europe.
Great shot.
5 consecutive strikes, 6 consecutive strikes to start things off here from Mike Zarcone.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
You know what, overall, a pretty good debut. You know, we've seen a lot of bowlers who have never been on the show before struggle under the lights and the cameras, and you and I talking, and all the attention and the eyes and everything. Not that these guys don't bowl in a lot of settings like this before, but anytime someone makes their debut on the show and rattles off a couple of wins, I'm always impressed.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to be sitting on the bench with the front 6 watching your opponent, you know, just leave formations, difficult things to pick up.
So another challenging spare pickup here for Ricky Zinone. He's made one and missed one of those crazy spares.
Not this
and
time.
won't make it again. So that's back-to-back opens for Ricky. And of course, I mentioned Mike rolled the 300 in our top 24 qualifier, yet he did not win the television, and the top qualifier in the round of 24 wins the TV, valued at $500 from Dirt Cheap TV. Paul Tatone from St. Catharines was our TV winner this month from here at Rapids, and as Sue mentioned, qualifying is getting underway now, so there's a whole new group of bowlers to try to claim spots on the TV show and bring home the television.
Yes. I remember that it's going to be a sports shot, so the scores won't be as elevated, so very competitive scoring situation for people. You know, they're not going to see the big 750s. I mean, you might see one or two. I don't want to say not at all.
A guy like Mike might be able to do it.
But for the most part, the cut's going to be very, very reasonable.
7 consecutive strikes to open this match for Mike Zarcone, frame 8. Making 8 in
nice
a row.
little trip 4.
Little body English there at the end, got that last pin to fall.
So technically this match is over. Mike has plenty of pins to win the game and cannot be caught by Ricky. And Ricky just wants to go throw his shots and get out of Mike's way now and give Mike the opportunity to have a shot at another at 300, number 111.
Unbelievable, right? I'm glad you brought it up. I was going to wait a little bit, but 110 career 300 games from Mike Sarcone, and within range of another one here coming up as soon as Ricky Zinone gets things finished off here. But there's one thing that Mike Zarcone has not done, and that is bowl a 300 game on Beat the Champ. We've had 4 of them over our first 3 years.
Yep, this is true. And I think one more time, I just want to mention the 9800. It is so difficult to keep that going. I mean, you can get a great, you can get great ball reaction in one game, but you're talking about continuing. Ooh, that was inside. Nice break there. He got that.
Didn't look great on its way down the lanes, did it?
Nope. He's gonna take that one and use it.
So that is 9 in a row.
That was a freebie right there.
Yeah, and Mike knows it too. You can see the look on his face.
Yeah.
That's what, hey, lucky and good doesn't really matter. All that matters is the scoreboard, the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard that shows Mike Zarcone heading to the 10th frame with a perfect game at the moment. Let's see what he can do.
Better shot. Very.
1 down.
Now, he's only been in this position 110 other times.
Think he knows how to handle it?
Probably way more than 110 other times.
And he was in this position a couple weeks ago when he bowled the 300 just in qualifying for the show here. So he's done it here on these lanes at Rapids. Second ball, the 10th frame for Mike Zarcone.
Oh.
And rolling, and not going to happen, but a nice round of applause from Mike Zarcone.
That ball was inside a little bit. It almost looked like he tried to play it safe, moved in a little bit, and tried to keep within the oil, which would explain the weak 10 pin. But
so that just leaves another challenge for Mike to work on in 2019, which is to get his first 300 TV perfect game here on Beat the Champ.
yeah, we don't want him losing interest now.
No, we got to find things to keep Mike interested in, and maybe that is exactly what it will be, as another outstanding performance is going to be another win for Mike Zarcone. So Ricky Zinone will finish things out, but it's a win for Mike Zarcone. We'll talk to both guys and get you ready for week number 2 here at the Rapids Bowling Center. And Sue and I return to Niagara Falls right after this. It's a 289 to 184 win for Mike Zarcone, ending the debut run of Ricky Zinone, and not a bad start to things here too, right? First time on the show to rattle off a couple of wins. Give me a sense of how this went for you.
It was pretty cool to be under the spotlight. never bowled anything like this on TV before, but it's pretty cool.
Did you have to change any of the ways that you bowled to account for any of that?
No, just went out there and bowled.
All right, well, good. Then it's a good experience for you then, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm only going to give this if you promise to keep making the trip in from Rochester and get yourself on some
I
more
will.
shows.
I'll try.
All right, good to get Ricky on the show. He's going to be certainly a player and a bowler to watch moving forward. We know we're going to be watching a little more of this guy, Sue.
I know. We're looking at your sheet saying 110 300s, and thought we were going to see 111 there for a second.
Yeah, it was pretty close. Made a good shot. Could have carried, but maybe next game.
Absolutely. Well, you said we want to accomplish just about everything else on this show, so we want to keep you coming around. So you still have that challenge in front of you anyways.
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, good luck going forward.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to get a little more of Mike Zarcone. He's coming back for next week's show. Sue and I will preview next week's stop here at the Rapids Bowling Center. When we return, more Beat the Champ coming up right after this. Well, I think we can all say that we all feel pretty comfortable in this show, and it's starting to feel, kind of part of our routine. But to have Mike Zarcone on the show, almost bowling 300 and winning, that really is the ultimate comfort level for this show, isn't it?
I know. It seems like just another month that he's doing such great things. And it's interesting that he has not shot 300 for as many shows as he's made. And that, a challenge left for him.
He's mad about that. He's probably mad at us for bringing it up, isn't he?
Well, get going. You got another week coming.
Guess what? Next week he might be able to throw it back in our faces by coming up with a win. Mike Zarcone will advance to next week's show. Kevin Smith, Rocket Rob Piccoli, and Jeff Pullman, the guys who are going to try to knock him off. It's 2019, and Mike Zarcone is winning on Beat the Champ. All is good in the world, right, Janelle?
Yes, definitely. I'm so glad to be back here. I mean, Niagara Falls is my hometown, so the fact that we started at Rapids, we're back at Rapids 4 years later. Here we go.
Well, good. Glad to be hanging out in Janelle's hometown. We thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see you in a week. More action from here in Niagara Falls at the Rapids Bowling Center. Beat the Champ returns in 1 week. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching, everybody.